Welcome everyone to our study today. Spiritism inspiring lives. All of us incarnates and all of those in spirit who are also with us in this virtual spiritual room where we find ourselves. In order for us to start our meeting today, we invite Thais to do the open prayer for us, please, Thais.
So let us unite our minds and our hearts, thanking God for the opportunity to be here today, for the opportunity that is given to us to know and to learn this so consoling doctrine that help us with the challenges, the tribulations that we encounter in life, helping us with our moral values to develop a better understanding of these noble values that will help us to progress, helping us to learn the virtues that sometimes we find it so difficult to exercise, and also taking this opportunity to thank you, our spiritual guides that are always with us, inspiring us, guiding us, helping us through this existence. In this way, I would like to ask the opportunity to open this meeting today so we can reflect more about our responsibilities, our commitments, our family, and our behaviors throughout this existence. So be it.
So be it. Once more, welcome everyone. Andrea, who is with us already here, and all of those who may come and join us through our channel of broadcasting, YouTube, Facebook, and also through the channel of Webby, Rádio Fraternidade. Feel welcome, everyone. And today we have the pleasure to have with us Thais Ferrari, who is helping us tonight to present the team, the Family Project, which is a very important theme for all of us who are incarnate, because in the end of the day, we all have a family, either corporeal or spiritual. So once more, welcome, Thais, and we hand it over to you.
Thank you, Evanice. So it's a pleasure again to be here tonight. And it was proposed to us about this theme, the family project. And there are so many aspects of this topic that we could talk about. But I would like to invite everyone to reflect with me on the aspect of the interaction of the spiritual world and the corporeal world regarding to family, to our family, so that we can try to understand what happens when we are disincarnated, meaning outside this physical body. And alongside that, we can also reflect about solidarity, fraternity, and how much the influence between these two words are much deeper and vaster than perhaps we imagine. So, what is it that precedes our return to the physical experience, and how Spiritism can teach us and help us to understand this process of the family project? So, on my slides, we we know that we pre-exist before we reincarnate, that we are not this body, we are in this body, and we will continue to exist after we leave this matter. So we are always spirits on a journey returning countless times to the material experience so that we can enrich our hearts with real spiritual values. And this is the vision that we study on Spiritism, that open up an infinite and vast vision of the future and the past. And now that we find ourselves in this current version of ourselves, that we are better than yesterday, and with all effort, we will be better tomorrow, perfecting ourselves and having Jesus as our model, understanding that life continues and that we find ourselves between these two worlds, sometimes incarnated and sometimes disincarnated. So, what is family according to Spiritism? Um, in Exodus, we'll find this commandment: honor your father and your mother, so that you may live long in the land the Lord your God is giving you. So in the Gospel according to Spiritism, in chapter 14, it helps us to understand this commandment to honor our father and our mother as as an inference from the general law of charity and love towards others. Within the Spiritism doctrine, we learn that a family is a place of reunion, a place of resumptions that is given to us in each existence, so that bonds that were not made or perhaps that were destroyed can form or be united again. And by forgetting the past, we what we did or what was done to us, we have the possibility to rewrite our history. And this is family, where we find the exact environment necessary to form these bonds through respect, through love and forgiveness, and so on, in preparation for what one day will be great universal family. Family is a divine project, and it's important that we have this perception. Misconceptions are made along the way, but we can amend our wrongdoings but by putting ourselves above our ego, above our personal interest, and changing our path. And this is what I would like to reflect here today about these divine projects in our lives, family, and what are we doing to make sure we are making the most of this opportunity to strengthen our bonds amongst those that are part of our corporeal family. I also put it there as saying from the book Life and Sex by Emmanuel, by the Spirit Emmanuel, where he says of all the social institutes on earth, the family is the most important from the point of view of the moral foundations that govern life. And we will come back to this. So on my next slide, let's talk a little bit about the spiritual and corporeal family. So the Spiritism doctrine comes to clarify that we have two types of families, one biological and the other spiritual. And let's start by talking about the spiritual family. And this is the ideal family where all the differences have already been resolved. They are spirits who have been able to forgive themselves and live in an environment of love and brotherhood. This family, when incarnated on earth, comes with a missionary purpose. It comes to set an example and support the others to evolve. Parents, children, and other family members enjoy the peace that everyone provides with each other and with others. Since our planet is still a school, a hospital and a school with atonements and tribulations, most families, unfortunately, still disintegrate sooner or later. And this is usually due to the lack of love, lack of understanding, lack of respect and tolerance. So let's focus here on the family group that still needs to work out this difference. And this is the biological family. In every affective union at the beginning, there is a stage that I'm going to call it fascination. It's a period of overwhelming passion in which we don't see the vices or the costumes of our partners, and there's no pointing out each other flaws. So as soon as this overwhelming passion cools down, uh, we begin to realize the flaws, and many of these flaws we don't accept, and therefore the relationship ends or becomes unsustainable. And sometimes in the midst of this hurricane comes the children. Some come to aid in the relationship, and others to provoke more discord. Family family planning done in spirituality is for the spiritual and moral growth of all, of everyone involved. But most of the time we interrupt this planning. Many of us are born amongst difficult family relationships may think I should not I should not have been born, or I don't deserve this father, this mother, or these brothers. But let's think about this. And once we go through these reflections, I hope that we can see that this is not really the case, because we often beg for the opportunity to be reborn in search of forgiveness, reckoning, and spiritual evolution. So, in fact, we need to understand that we never just fall in the middle of a family. We are immortal spirits with the right to come and go in various existences in this orb, and most of the time having the right to choose where we will be born or live. Thus, the family which we are living today is by choice and is the ideal place to improve ourselves, because they are the best educators to develop our emotional intelligence and to exercise our virtues. And hopefully, after thousands of incarnations, we will have the same proportion of love that Jesus has for all mankind. But as we are spirits still in search of perfection, most of the time here we arrive full of imperfections. We still need to be worked in the midst of living with other people in a small or a large family. And it's the only place where we drop the mask, not disguising our bad tendencies and flaws. But let's always remember that we exercise our free wills all the time, even before we reincarnate. And the process involved in each reincarnation are very particular. And by reincarnate, we choose the family group with which we will live, showing all our ills, choosing the father, the mother, the brother, who will help us in our moral transformation. And in the middle of all this, we will find the spirits to which we have great affinity. But we also find the ones that who seems to be true enemies within the group, the family group or other relatives. So if let me just put the next slide. Sorry, there we go. So having this in mind, and before I go any further, I would like to make reference to these two books, as most of the material I will use today to develop our reflections were taken from them. So the Spirits book, I've looked through the questions 330 to 345. And I also use the book Missionaries of the Light, but I only gonna mention a part of a chapter 12. It's not even the whole chapter, and to because it talks about the reincarnation of a spirit and the approximation to his family to be. And just to aid this conversation, I'm gonna use images from the Projeto Imagem in Brazil, which is a wonderful project that translates books into images and helping us to visualize, sometimes having a better understanding of what we're learning. And on my next slide, this is just an overview of what we're gonna be trying to cover today in this talk. So we're gonna see a little bit about reincarnation, returning to the corporeal life, and through this talk, I hope we can answer some of these questions, like could it be that the family we were born into was already planned in the spirituality before our coming? Did I ask to be born? Did I have any saying in this planning? Do spirits get to prepare our family to receive us? Or does everything happen as a result of conditioning, a formality of life? And then what are our responsibilities? So on my next slide is the first image from the project image. And these are scenes from the Missionaries of Light, part of the chapter 12. And the images are the reflection of the artist. It reflects his understanding of what he read in the book. These are not real images like how the spirits look like. Yeah. So from here we're going to see a summary of the chapter 12, like I said, and it won't be the whole chapter. I would need more than an hour to take us through the whole chapter. And this part that I'm going to talk about is about a spirit called Segismundo, and he's being prepared to reincarnate. So there are these two spirits, Alexandre and André. Alexandre is the one with ginger hair, and the André is in the middle, that went to visit the home of Adelino and Raquel. These are the two adults sat in the dinner table. When they got there, they met with the other two spirits, which is Herculano with the black hair and the beard, and Segismundo that is sat in the armchair. Segismundo was going to reincarnate in that family as the second son of Adelino and Raquel. And this meeting had the aim to get Adelino, the father to be, and Segismundo to get closer, as they had accumulated debts in the past. Segismundo, in his prior reincarnation, amongst these two spirits, Raquel and Adelino, has committed a crime, taking Adelino's life. And because of that, Adelino repels him. And Adelino thoughts of hatred and jealousy hidden their approach. So, however, Segismundo recognized the need for his reincarnation in order to correct his error, but he's also sad, as we can see his facial expression there on the chair, that Adelino don't accept him as his son. And even though they both, or all of them, have committed before reincarnate to meet each other again. So if we look at the next slide. So, and this image is showing a conversation they were having during their meal. Yeah. So the spirits observes that Adelino is not talking much, even though Raquel, his wife, is trying to talk to him. And but he has shown no interest in having a conversation with him, uh, as he finds himself quite upset. And the enlightened spirits try to help him through the toddler, through his child. So the spirits intervene by placing their hand on the child's chest, inspiring the child to initiate a conversation with his mom, Raquel, asking, trying to understand why daddy was so sad. Yeah. And the conversation between the mom and the child has actually made Adelino reflect on the blessings he had at home and think about his own behavior. Has actually touched him, that conversation. And the reason it has touched him is because even though he was being so indifferent to Raquel, she still continued defending him through the conversation to their child. And the affection that he saw and he felt from his child, and the love and humbleness and understanding from his wife, has touched Adelino, which has made him a little bit happier, helped him even for a brief moment, to stop that cycling of inferior and negative thoughts that he was having. Um, and still inspired by the spirits, the children has invited Adelino, his dad, to pray with them just before they went to bed. And as Adelino was touched by the conversation, he accepted the invitation. And we can see that on the next slide. So on the left, before we go into the prayer, just before Adelino left the room, we can see that Adelino was trying to explain to his wife why he was so indifferent, so upset. And he explained that for many nights he was not getting enough sleep. He kept getting nightmares where he would see these men that he could only explain like someone very poor begging for help. But when he would try to give his hand to help this man, Adelino would actually feel inundated with this feeling of terror, fear, and hate, and he would just run away and wake up and suddenly wake up. And this was really disturbing him as he could not sleep. Um, and then on the right slide, we can see that later at night, Adelino has joined, as he promised, Raquel and his son to pray. And while this was happening, we can also see the spirits, the enlightened spirits there, and they were talking about the reincarnation of Segismundo. And André Luiz, with a very inquisitive mind, as always, asked if all that was happening, if it was necessary, if Segismundo could just reincarnate within that family without going through this process of approximation with his father to be, as all this has already been agreed in the spiritual world. And the enlightened spirits explained to André Luiz that the process was indeed necessary. It was necessary to confirm between them, the father to be and Segismundo, the son to be, the good disposition to receive this new opportunity, a disposition to resume ties and both learn with each other, to respect, to forgive, and to love one another. And at this point here, I would like to highlight that we cannot forget about our free will as well. The spirits shouldn't and can't force anyone. On my next slide, I would like just to show these two paragraphs from the books Life and Sex and The Consolator, both of them by Spiritual Emmanuel. And we see these paragraphs that consolidates what we are talking about from André Luiz's book, and hopefully will help us to understand and reflect about the family project. So on the Life and Sex, Emmanuel carries on saying, usually we ourselves are the ones who plan the transformation of the family before the earthly rebirth with the support and supervision of the benefactor instructors. We commonly call old companions of unhelped adventures to us, performing them to return to our society, to promise them help and opportunity, in which the hope of elevation and rescue, refinement and improvement is rebuilt. Of all the existence social institutions on earth, the family is the most important from the point of view of the moral foundations that govern life. And then on the Consolator, question 175. Family is like a school, has its sacred origins in the spiritual sphere. In its bonds, all those who have committed themselves in the beyond to develop on earth a constructive task of definitive and real fraternity. And then I asked myself that questions I put at the start. So could it be that the family that I'm born, that we are born, was already planned before our reincarnation? And did we have any saying in this planning, in this project? And we learned that almost always, yes, we play a big part in the planning of our families, and we are born where we need to be born, surrounded by those that we have so much to learn with, to help, to be helped, and to learn fraternity and create these real bonds. And as we're talking about the choices that we make, and because I said almost always yes, there are certain exceptions when the spirit is still simple, ignorant, and without experience. And we can find questions and answers about this on the Spirit's book. I will specifically mention question 262, to, to which the Spirit has answered that God compensates for its inexperience by outlining the path the spirit should follow, as you do for a child from birth. However, as the spirit's free will develops, God gradually leaves it the freedom to choose its own way. It is at this point that the spirit will choose the wrong path if it does not listen to advice of the good spirits. This is what we may call the fall of man. So God is our Father, a Father that loves us all, and no one is left behind. He never abandons us. He will carry us on His arm, if I could say that, and until we learn how to walk. Then He will give us freedom to make our own choices and learn with our rights and wrongs. So if we go to the next slide, here both on the left Adelino and Raquel are sleeping, or their physical body rests, but their spirit is awake and free from the body, only attached by that silver cord that is showing on the image. And Raquel is at the back meeting with her grandmother, while Adelino, already anxious, leave his body afraid of what he would find. And it's interesting to pay attention here to the difference in vibration between Raquel and Adelino. As Adelino was not in peace, he was so disturbed that his mind was stuck in these inferior thoughts, that he could only have the perception of that shadow that he was seeing for many nights now. Um, Having difficulty to tune with the enlightened spirits that were there. Remember at the beginning of the image, we had another three spirits and Segismundo as well. And when they were praying, we could see Raquel, grandmother, there as well. But Adelino couldn't see that. So Adelino actually sees Sigismundo at this point, and he gets scared as he recognizes that old rival. However, the enlightened spirits, Alexandre, intervene at this moment by showing himself and reaching out his hand to Adelino. And Adelino see the light coming from Alexandre's hands, and he go down on his knees, thinking of Alexandre as an angel that comes to help him. And he starts complaining about the ghost that he was following him on his sleep. And Alexandre, trying to calm his down, reminds him how easy it was to be indulgent, to love, to be charitable to those that are nice to us or that we love, but how much we would learn with those that we didn't have much of affinity with. And while this conversation was happening between Adelino and Alexandre, André Luiz was observing and trying to understand what was happening there. And he understood that Sigismundo reincarnation has actually brought back to Adelino memories of the past, as Adelino was actually afraid of that spirit and he felt like he wanted to take his life. But from here, Alexandre asks Segimundo to approach, so he has this opportunity to get closer to Adelino, which he hadn't before, and he asks Adelino for his forgiveness. So on the next slide, and there will be my last slide with the image of this book. We can see here in the image, with sincerity in his heart, Segismundo is kissing Adelino's hand. And this is what was needed for Adelino to disarm himself in relation to Segismundo. So in this instance, Adelino also, with sincerity in his heart, has forgiven that spirit, has forgiven Segismundo. And you can see as well that his spirit, his spiritual body, is getting rid of all that heavy and dark clouds that was surrounding him, and gently was radiating his noble condition and let it show the light that he also possessed. And from now on, the planning of Segismundo reincarnation will continue in the spiritual world, and that would be on the next chapter, but I'm stopping here. And the next chapter will be about Sigismundo reincarnation, like the process of fecundation and things like that. So it's a very interesting book, and I'll suggest reading the whole book. But from the summary of this part of the chapter 12, we can see that there is a lot of work in the spiritual world, preparing ourselves to our reincarnation, preparing our family to receive us. And we are pretty much involved with all that. It's also very clear the respect that is given from the enlightened spirits to our free will. The enlightened spirit wouldn't force us or our family to receive us. It has to come from us. Otherwise, it would have no effort, no appreciation, and no merit. And it's and in this case, between Sigismundo and Adelino, it was crucial their approximation, so that toxic thoughts that was coming from Adelino would not interfere with the process of reincarnation of Sigismundo. And by modifying Adelino's thoughts, he will emit protective magnetic forces to Segismundo through the period of fecundation and pregnancy and so on. So my next slide, I would like to talk a little bit about the importance of the reincarnation, because we've been talking about the reincarnation of Segismundo, and now also taking it back to reflect about our own reincarnation. Um, and on the Spirits book, questions 166, there's a question about how can a soul who did not reach perfection during its corporeal life complete the work of its purification. And the Spirit answers by submitting to the trial of a new existence. So here it makes me questions like, how can I in 80, 90, 100 years on earth, I don't know how long I will be here in this body, but how could I purify myself? How could I become perfect in such a small period of time and with so much things to improve? And the spirits are very clear by submitting to the trial of a new existence. So it's not possible, and thus reincarnation comes into place. And the next question is question 167. And what is the purpose of reincarnation? And the spirits answer, expiation and humankind progressive improvement. Without reincarnation, how could there be justice? And I also put a paragraph from Emmanuel on the Consolator, question 96. And Emmanuel teaches that reincarnation in itself represents stations of treatment and healing of certain diseases of the soul, sometimes so persistent that it can claim several successive reincarnations with the same intensity in the regenerative process. So reincarnation is not a punishment. It's an opportunity for us to evolve, to learn, to make amendments, and it has a useful purpose. And that purpose at the end is for us to find the real happiness. But then I might ask, did I actually ask to be born? And I'm gonna answer yes, we did. As we could see with Segismundo, for example, that was involved with the planning of his reincarnation and trying, even from the spiritual world, to make amends with Adelino. Um, And I believe that many times we actually not just ask, we beg to return. And this is because we know that it's only through reincarnation that we can finish what we have not completed yet, learn what we have not learned yet, put it into practice what we only know or we only understand in theory. And I've heard this saying many times that from the atom to the archangel is through reincarnations that we reform ourselves, acquiring consciousness, putting into practice the theory of what we have learned. And this is the importance of reincarnation. Um, so, on the next slide, I'm going to talk a little bit about our commitments and responsibilities. And I took this from one of Joanna de Angelis, Spirit Joanna de Angelis' book called Moral Laws of Life. And she says that children are programmed in the extra physical sphere of life in view of the credit debt injunctions derived from past reincarnations. Normally, before diving into the carnal body, the reincarnating spirit establishes an exchange with the future parents whose assistance they need for the commitment to be undertaken. And that's the example we saw with Segismundo. The children who did not arrive by the normal way, however, will reach the house where he finds the feelings of denial by using the subtle resources of life, which bring the affine together through love or rebellion when separated, for just reparations. They will reach other ceilings, but from there they will be attracted by the propelling needs to meet their own family, not always covered in relevant objectives. Whichever option you choose, having more or fewer children, or perhaps none, the ones that are on the agenda of your needs will reach you, today or later. If possible, welcome them in the best way, because depending on how you receive them, they will be general friends or rude adversaries, which you will not be able to free yourself easily. And this was taken on from a chapter that she was talking about um, conceiving and um, stopping having children and things like that. So everything has a planning, a project that will materialize as the reincarnate spirit go through life, as we go through life, our existence, and using our free will. We are free to follow with the project, the commitments that we made or not. We can, for example, choose to interrupt this planning. And many times we do by getting in our own way during our existence. For example, I may find motivations that make me reconsider the projects that I had, preventing me from carrying it out. Sometimes, as Joanna de Angelis was saying there, subtracting the reincarnation of one of the spirits, for example, and that spirit that has a bond with me, but that his reincarnation was taken away. But there will always have other ways that we will find each other so we can reconcile. And however, as mentioned by Joanna de Angelis, depending on the reason for the rejection, that spirit will not come with the same acceptance, and he or she might come with that feeling of rejection. So the project families, it's the family project, sorry, it's very important. And we need to be aware that we are immortal spirits. We need to be lucid so we don't make selfish decisions. We don't make decisions based only on material things, on what is temporary. And I think what um, can help all of us is it's that we ask the Spirit's benefactor. We search to reconnect with God. We search for help, and we uh, let's look at our conscience as well, and then we can make a decision so that we can try not to make selfish ones. So on our next slide, um, so what is the importance then of the family? And on the Spirit's book, question 775, there's a question there saying, what would be the result for society if family ties were relaxed? And the Spirit simply answer, a magnification of selfishness. And then the Spirit Miramace comes to reflect on the Spirit's answer. And he says the reflections of family ties would be a moral disaster for society, capable of leading it back to primitivism. What would happen to the body if we tore apart the organs that make it up? Surely it would be death. To undo the family is to disorient humanity. The fight against selfishness begins at home, because there we become interested in each other, already within a certain detachment. Although we have said it many times, and we say it again, no one can live alone anywhere. Everyone needs everyone to complete themselves towards happiness. If we want to be happy, let us work for the happiness of those who travel with us on the great path of life. May God bless us to understand His laws, which throb everywhere and have the power to set us free with freedom in Jesus Christ. So, family ties help us to see each other, to love, to learn, to understand fraternity. Give us the opportunity to respect, to develop virtues, to develop things such as resignation, renounce our personal interests, to become indulgent, to forgive, to learn to be patient, and so on. And these are noble values that help us in our moral progress. It is through the family that we know the principle of love. And if there was this relaxation in the family, the selfishness that still dwells in our heart would grow even more, because we would not have this commitment, the responsibility with our family members, those who do not give us the opportunity to give vent to our personal interest and help us to distance ourselves from path that would distance us from God. Having said that, moral progress will only come with our awakening. So let's try to reflect on the times that we are living and see as an urgent call for us to look for God, to reconnect with our Father, to focus in what is important in our moralization, in our transformation. So, in the next slide, I would like to talk a little bit about the struggles that we have amongst our family, because we talk about these noble values and learning all these virtues, but we know it can be difficult, it can be challenging, and it definitely challenging, but it is possible. And in the current moment, troubled by the inversion of values in the moral field, it requires from us even more attention to the preservation of the family harmony. The earthly home, in the spirit view, represents an opportunity for learning and practicing of divine laws, providing the meeting of spirit friend from other experience, other existence, and also the proper adjustment with the disaffected past existence. And it is exactly that. So I found this saying, and I didn't refer who wrote it, but I'm gonna quote. I don't know, it's not mine, but I found it quite interesting. That says, "Family struggle is a fundamental problem of man's redemptions on earth. How are we to be benefactors of 100 or 1,000 people if we have not yet learned to serve 5 or 10 creatures? This is a logical inquiry that extends to all sincere disciples of Christianity. So, how can we learn to love all of humanity as Jesus said to us, or to help other people, if we can't even learn to serve that small amount of people within our house, within our family? But then, how to build and to maintain the long dreamed peace in the house, in the home? And how can we overcome the frictions and disagreements that we find in our family environment? And is it possible to find in our home the necessary support that we need to overcome the daily challenge, the daily tribulations? And there are no recipes, I'm afraid, but I think choosing to exercise every day, bit by bit, to have noble attitudes such as renunciation, forgiveness, dedication, respect, as well as analyzing of doing an analysis of our own behavior in our home towards our family can help us to strengthen these bonds and perhaps answer a little bit of the previous questions. And let's remember that Jesus says, settle matters quickly with your adversary. Do it while you're still together on the way. So let's make the most of this opportunity. While we are crossing the same path side by side. Let's make the necessary the amends that we need. Let's make the best of every opportunity we have to reconcile. Yeah. So on my next slide, and is my last slide, there is I took this from the Gospel according to Spiritism in the chapter 14. And it says, blood ties do not necessarily create bonds between spirits. The body comes from the body, but the spirit does not proceed from the spirit, since the spirit already existed before the formation of the body. The parents do not create the spirit of the child. They do nothing more than supply the material wrapping, although it is their duty to help the intellectual and moral development of their child in order to further its progress. Those incarnated in the same family, especially as close relations, are as often as not congenital spirit linked by the past relationships, which express themselves during their early lives by their reciprocate affections. But it can also happen that these people are complete strangers to each other, or they may be distant from each other due to the past aversions, which while on earth are translated into mutual antagonisms which serves as probations. The real family, the real family ties are not those of blood then, but those of mutual sympathy and the communion of ideas which hold the spirits together, before, during, and after their incarnations. From this, it follows that two people born of different parents may be more like brothers or sisters than if were of the same blood. They can attract each other, search for each other, and so feel happy together. Whereas two blood brothers may be repelled by each other, as is frequently seen, this moral problem is one of the only Spiritism can resolve through the explanation of the plurality of existence. So I would like to conclude my reflections that bringing that we are spirits and we are not here on vacation. Our home should be sacred space of learning, a sacred building workshop where we will be beautifying our souls, learning and teaching, like in a teaching hospital. Everything is right, everything is in place, and we are where we need to be. We have the father, the mother, the brothers, uncle, any relatives that we deserve, actually better yet, that we need. Many times we fight, we disagree, but we reconcile. And this is how our reincarnation project continues. Experience better choices, learning noble values. But we can only progress like this when we are aware that we are incarnated spirits, that we came here to reconnect, to strengthen these ties with each other. And by doing that is increasing our universal family. And the aim when we make all those choices and projects in the spiritual world is for us and everyone to come out as winner, No one reincarnates to get things wrong, to deviate from the path that connects us to God, reconnect us to God. So let not escape from a relationship because it's very confusing, because it's hard work, because it requires renouncing our personal interest. Let's not throw the responsibility onto the other. And if it really didn't or doesn't work out, let's not leave the other by themselves. Don't stop being a father. Don't stop being a mother of your children. Don't stop trying to love, to understand, forgive your brother, your sister, or whoever the trouble is with. So you know, sometimes external motivations can appear. For example, um, let's use an example of a couple relationship, which would lead them not to follow with their reincarnation commitment. But when this happens, it's a call for the couple to maintain fidelity, for example, respect, and strengthen the bonds of their union. And these events are not intended to lead the spirit to adventure, to disrespect, hindering the family project. So let's choose to reaffirm our family relationships every day, valuing this relationship, whatever it may be. Look at our family group, invest, share, get close to each other, forgive each other. And if getting close, if you still feel that this is not possible, if a lot has already happened or is happening, just do your best. Try to ease the problems. Refocus your path and your consciousness towards God, towards this reconnection that we need urgently. And there is always a way when we invest in ourselves, and that meaning investing in our spiritual growth. And it doesn't really matter what others are doing. It doesn't matter if she or he doesn't think the same way as we do. What matters is what we are doing. So let's not relax and remain in our ego. Let us actually work towards learning how to love, to forgive each other. And if we are in an abusive relationship, for example, let us carry on with our path, perhaps moving away from that reincarnated spirit, but without hatred, without anger, without wishing him or her bad, wishing them well, forgiving, and following our path with Jesus. And that the reflections I would like to leave here today, and I'll pass it back to Evanice. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much indeed, Thais, for your beautiful and profound and deep reflections following the theory of reincarnation. So in that way, as we're coming to the end of our meeting today, I would kindly invite everyone who is with us for our final prayer, so that we can all cooperate in these moments, that we can open ourselves and be receptive for the blessings of the Enlightened Spirits. Maybe together give thanks for all the blessings that we already received throughout this talk and the reflections tonight. Giving thanks for our reincarnation process, for all of those who have been dedicated in a loving way to favor these blessing moments in our existences, for us to return to this school earth, to be once more with those that we have probably lived previously, but still are in need to learn to love each other. May in these moments open our hearts and sincerely express our gratitude towards God, the loving and merciful Father, who always promotes opportunities for every and each one of us to redo our lessons, to expand our consciousness, to grow ethically and morally, to expand the higher potentials of our souls. Let's also in these moments pray for our families, our fathers, our mothers, who were the instruments from God favoring our reincarnation process. Let's not focus on their shortcomings, but focus on the blessings that they received us for us to carry on, taking responsibility towards our own learning. Let's also pray for our brothers and sisters, which we know are our brothers and sisters in humanity. Once more, focus on our purpose to choose to connect, to relate from the heart in a fraternal, solidarious way, and choose to let go any hard feeling that we may still have. Choose to open our hearts and forgive in cases needed. Also pray for our spouses, our wives, our husbands, our partners, our children, which we also know there are our brothers and sisters in humanity, which through the permission of God, we were granted to be once more together in these temporary positions, in order to look in each other's eyes and learn to perceive God within every and each one of them. May we sincerely exercise and practice forgiveness as many times as is required. Learn to silence our own shadows so that the light within can start to shine. Let's also choose to be the ones who cooperate instead of disturb. Let's also be one of us, one of those who choose sincerely to learn, practice, and exemplify humbleness, so that we all, as a universal family, can promote more happiness within, to the extension that we choose to do it in this existence and beyond. Let's also give thanks for all of those who have been part in our previous existences. Doesn't matter in which position. Members of our family. And also those that perhaps we rejected through our ignorance, through our pride and selfishness. But in this moment, more aware as we are, sincerely, let's express our thoughts and feelings of brotherhood towards all of them, that they may feel our sincerity, that they may feel our sincere feelings of goodness, of brotherhood. We also pray for all of those in spirit who perhaps are studying with us and looking back and see the time that they lost, not investing in coming closer to each other. In the same time, knowing that the loving Father will always give us new opportunities. Let's pray for our universal family. All of us as brothers and sisters in humanity, and asking that Jesus, the guide of humanity on earth, may extend his light and love towards all of us, so much in need, dear Lord. Considering our internal turbulences, help us once more to calm ourselves, to rest our hearts, and to listen to your invitation. Come unto me, who you are exhausted and tired. I will guide you towards the pathway of light and love. And with these blessings, soothing our hearts and minds, we conclude our meeting today. So be it. Wishing much peace to everyone who have been with us, and also inviting all of those who would like to be with us tonight at 8 p.m. London time with our study in Portuguese, Mediunidade e Evangelho em Minha Vida. So in that way, we give thanks for tonight's opportunity. Thanks for you, Thais, for being with us, and hope we have other opportunities in the future. Wishing peace to all of you and hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.